Hey there, friends and enemies, Joe here again, and I had a lot of good feedback on my last Path of Exile 2 video, everyone telling me that I should play the game and at least check out more of what's in store for us with the sequel to one of the best ARPGs of all time, and I figured this would be a good opportunity leading up to launch, just taking a look at everything the game has to offer. So I'm going to check out this video from IGN where they take a hands-on look with the Mercenary class, which looks absolutely insane, and a first glance at the Endgame as well, both of which I'm very curious about, so I'm excited to see what they have in store for us today.
I'm going to focus this preview on the Mercenary. While it's not my favorite of the classes, the Mercenary is very unique in that it transforms traditional Path of Exile gameplay into
like a machine gun
from a top-down shooter. This class, which focuses on the use of a crossbow, has you start by firing 7 rounds of bolts at any approaching enemies. You'll then slowly unlock new skill gems that add abilities that will snipe, rapidly fire armor-piercing rounds, lob a grenade, freeze, set on fire, or otherwise set you up for success against the waves you'll come across. This transformation into a shooter is intentional, with Grinding Gear Games' Jonathan Rogers embracing the challenge the class gives them by taking lessons from other titles in the shooter space that they then build upon.
Okay.
While I found that I missed the thwack of the monk's staff or the agility the hunter's bow offered, I can see how the Mercenary could be an attractive option for new players who may be more familiar with other genres and entering the ARPG space for the first time.
So this is why I've been recommended to check out the Mercenary class, I would imagine, just because it does feel like, as somebody who didn't really dive deep into Path of Exile 1 and hasn't played it, I have played Diablo 4 and other ARPGs, but I'm not a veteran necessarily. This is the type of class that could be very awesome for newer players like myself. Although I am leaning towards a summoner on the sorcerer because that looks even sicker.
The only reason I feel the Mercenary is held back is because of the sheer amount of reloading needed, as it happens when you swap between firing modes or just run out of ammo, leading to a bit more downtime than I liked, at least in the early game.
I would imagine you'll get some reload buffs down the line.
That said, the class does start coming together and feeling quite powerful around the graveyard section of Path of Exile 2. This seems to be the point where all the classes really begin to come into their own and give players a peek at their endgame potential. By this point, I had a grenade launcher that shot 3 projectiles and did increased area of effect damage, a gun that fired ice that slowed and froze approaching enemies, and a fire shot that lit everything on fire that came near me, but also pushed back approaching mobs with force. These building blocks give you a chance to begin placing perks into the abilities you like the most, especially because your passive skill tree journey will have likely unlocked a bonus or 2, which allow you to begin building the character you will use to continue through the campaign.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Okay, here we go with the endgame.
A large focus of my preview event for Path of Exile 2 was a behind closed doors presentation focused on the endgame path you'll be taken on. While I didn't get hands-on time with it, Rogers took us through the endgame challenges, including a massive world map to be cleared and endgame activities that they think players will keep coming back to for hundreds of hours. In a roundtable interview, when asked about the endgame, he said,
"If we don't have a good endgame going into early access, then Path of Exile 1 players are just going to say, hey, this is just a worse game." You know, like we need that stuff to be able to
very
actually make
aware of
feel like, oh yeah, you know what,
how people feel.
Sequel.
And boy, does it look like they delivered.
I'm an endgame player myself in most games I play,
peek into what's planned for December. The
that's
first
really
half
exciting.
Of the campaign, including Acts 1 of 3, will launch first and should take you around 25 hours to complete.
Okay, fair.
The end game awaiting you after campaign completion promises a lot of exciting new ways to power up your build. I got a small sneak peek at some of those end game chases as part of a 2-hour presentation detailing several of the modes you'll be able to chase. Well, there's 8 primary endgame modes planned at the launch of early access. You'll be introduced to a few during the campaign. They include several sequels to popular leagues from the original Path of Exile, with more to be launched during early access.
Okay,
I saw the
fire.
Trial of Secondus, which has you enter a series of rooms that each have unique challenges, like filling a blood chalice by defeating red enemies in the area, or surviving increasingly difficult enemy spawns.
This is why I want to play the Summoner. That looks sick.
These floors each have several challenges like this, and at the end of each, after a boss fight, you'll have a choice to cash in keys you've collected or proceed to the next level for a chance at better loot, die or have your honor reduced to 0 by being hit too many times, and you'll be kicked back to the beginning. To improve...
This is very important, and I think one thing that one of the reasons I like them going into early access, and one of the things that I think a lot of games, when they initially launch, they lack the end game. And so in order for people to keep replaying these live service ongoing type of games, whether there are live service or not, if you want a replayability, you need a robust end game. And oftentimes it feels like these games are launched with the end game to come down the line. And the problem with that is I think it underestimates just how willing people are to grind to get to endgame and how much people want to get to that part of the game in the first place. And so because of that, it really leads to a lot of people feeling underwhelmed. And the folks that rush through the campaign and they get to the endgame and then they do all of that, they don't have anything left to do, and then they move on to another game, and they oftentimes do not return. With an early access, I think the people will return, especially with a 1.0 release, but also having this endgame at launch of early access will give a lot of playtime to people who want to do those activities.
Your chances, there's water you'll collect that works as a currency to buy items during your run and help you along the way. Some relics can also be found or crafted. One relic teased the chance at a coveted unique item, but you'd be forced to complete this trial with only 1 HP. In addition to the rewards, this will also give you access to the Altar of Ascendancy, where you get to pick one of 3 Ascendancy classes at the end. In early access, there will only be 2 Ascendancy classes to start with. We got a peek at the Witch's Infernalist Ascendancy class that lets you summon a Hellhound, who will set everything next to it on fire once it's summoned. It also has the bonus of being the one who takes damage for you if you're hit. They also showed off the Witch's Demon form, which allows you to become a winged monster who is faster, does more damage, and casts faster spells, but also takes damage as you remain in the form. Keep in mind, this is just the first endgame mode, which on its own seems like it would be able to provide hundreds of hours of fun challenges. I also got a peek at another endgame system called the Temple of Chaos, which can be encountered in Act 3. This temple can be entered after you acquire a token from the Trial Master, and the event was called a sequel to the Ultimatum League from Path of Exile 1. You enter the temple and pick a modifier like blood globules, which are globby blood orbs that will spawn and follow you around in the sky before falling quickly to Earth in an attempt to damage you. Or shocking turrets that make a grid of electricity occasionally shoot across the battlefield.
What the hell?
These
this is
modifiers
crazy.
stack, and you'll need to complete the normal map challenges like trying to survive, killing everything in the room, or escorting a giant hammer across the map until it reaches its destination, while also avoiding the modifiers.
I wonder if you can do all of this co-op.
The final game activities revolved around the Ziggurat location, where you gain access to a world map and travel to various spots to dispel corruption. Here you can clear towers, defeat bosses, or clear breaches. There's also the Expedition League sequel that has you plant dynamite across the map to unearth cool loot and unlock new abilities on gear. There are Delirium maps that increase difficulty and allow you to earn more passives for your passive tree. And they even teased an Uber Pinnacle boss that you'll need unique keys to access. They said that the Uber Pinnacle boss would offer a challenge for longtime players, as it's promised to be the hardest content in the game.
Yeah, that's going to be
for these
insane.
systems included a new gem system for your weapons and armor and passive skill tree, the latter giving you the ability to socket unique gems into the tree that give you enhancements to anything unlocked in the vicinity of the socket, or additional boosts that give you a chance to further
actually
empower
insane.
your build. And all of that is on top of an entirely unique Atlas skill tree, which will let you unlock perks that are specifically tied to each of these endgame modes.
Nah, that's nuts.
Look, there's so much to cover from the Path of Exile 2 preview event, and I'm only scratching the surface here.
All right, I'm going to hold it off there on the rest of the video. That was super informative, but Mercenary looks sick. I think I'm leaning towards it not being my first character, but that the sorcerer looks absolutely insane. Sorceress, whatever. That's probably going to be my main, but the end game, man. I was on the fence, but I think I'm pretty much sold. I would love for people to play with. So if my videos on Path of Exile 2 continue to get traction, I would love to get folks together to play the game and have people to run different types of content with, because that's one of my biggest downsides when I was playing, like, for example, Diablo 4, is a lot of my friends fell off the game and then I could not have a good time with it because I'm a social butterfly. I want to play with other people. I will grind solo at times for sure, but my whole thing at the end of the day is I would love to level and do some of the end game content, some of the different content in the game with friends and folks, if at all possible. So let me know if you'll be playing Path of Exile 2 in the comments down below. Let me know what you're most excited about. Is it the specific class that you're really going to main? Is it the end game? Anything like that? Let me know in the comments down below. My name is Chopa. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.